welcome and welcome back. This is TK, and I'm going to give you a very spoiled review of The Mammoth Hunters by Jean M. Auel. This book was published in December 21st, 1985. A little short summary of the book before we dive into it. It is taking place right after Jandalar and Isla leave the valley of horses, and they meet a group of mammoth hunters, and they are invited to winter in their lodge, and then they move on and go to the summer camp, and then the two of them move on and start on their journey back to Jandalar's home. And between that, there's a little love story. There's a lot of other interesting things that happen, but that is the short summary of the book. So how I do these reviews? I pretty much do a pro and cons list, and since the size of the books are pretty sizable, I mean they're pretty thick. So I usually break them into parts. I'm breaking these into three parts, which is the meeting adoption into the tribe, the summer camp. Oh, sorry. The second one is the winter lodge, the love triangle, the mammoth hearth, and wolf. And that's kind of the winter chunk of time when they're wintering the lodge. And then we have the summer camp, and the mammoth hunt, which are kind of the closure of the book. So yeah. So the meeting between the two groups is taken pretty cool. It's really cool how John Allard kind of greets, and there's kind of a universal way of different people greeting each other and to different groups and whatnot, travelers. That's very cool. I'm sorry, guys. I'm a little bit distracted. I had a loss in my family, so I'm kind of pushing through because I think this is going to help me. But that's kind of why I'm kind of a little distracted. But I do love this book, and I do want to put this out because I want to work on it. Sorry. That being said, the intro of Red Egg is handled really, really well. Red Egg is actually a half Neanderthal, half human child that was adopted into the lion camp. That's the camp of people that Isla and John meet. It's a lion camp. And yeah, it's handled pretty well. Of course, we know that Isla had a child too, Dirk, and Clan of the Cave Bear, and she had to give him up. So there's a lot of attachment between this child and Isla, because Isla kind of really identifies us with where her child was, because they're kind of the same age, kind of the same situation. Well, actually, Dirk is in a different situation, kind of a better situation, because Dirk can actually communicate with Flan, and Red Egg can only do hand signs and whatnot, so he's not able to communicate fully with his people, the lion camp. So that's led to a lot of people thinking that he's stupid, and he's not. He's really a smart kid, and actually, because the clan kind of grows differently, matures differently, he's actually a lot older than he looks. So he's a very smart young person, and Isla can see this, and Isla kind of teaches him how to speak, and then she teaches the lion camp how to speak in his language, so they're able to communicate again, and this offers Red Egg a whole new way of communicating with the camp, and offers huge connections with these people, and these people start looking at him as a human being and not as some weird animal or something. So that's very cool. Yeah, another thing that this does, it showcases the way the lodge was created and how it's built, and that's so cool. Because I mean, it Jean really goes into really deep detail, and you can tell that she really did her homework on how these lodges were created, and how they're constructed and whatnot, and how you can make them. So that's very cool. Yeah, the cultural practices. Sorry, there's a plane going by. The cultural practices are kind of go into more depth in this section too. Mammoth, who is the camp shaman, kind of like takes an instant liking to Isla because Isla's different. He can tell that there's something unique about this person, and I need to kind of investigate that. And also, Mammoth had actually stayed with the same plan that Isla had, but this was years and years and years ago when he was a young man. And in this book, he's very old, like 60, 70, which is like ancient for back then. Like he had like 5 generations behind him. So yeah, he was a pretty old guy, but he knew pretty much like the same people that Isla knew. So that was like a strong connection between the two of them, and it was kind of an instant thing. So it doesn't take long before the camp decides to adopt Isla, not John Alar, because John Alar is like he has the people, he has the Zelandani, and he wants to go back to the Zelandani eventually. Whereas Isla, she doesn't really have anybody. I mean, she has the clan, but she was kind of exorcised from the clan and like told never to come back and was given a death curse. So if she did ever come back, they they would see her as a spirit, so she couldn't come back. So she had no people. She actually introduced herself as Isla of No People. So the Lion Camp was like, you know what? We'll take you in because you're very cool. You can like make fire. You have these horses. You have this power of these horses, and this really cool. Plus, you're a cool person. They really liked her. John Lara, they were like, you're. They kind of offered him, but they kind of knew that he was going to say no. So he decided to not go that route. But they do decide to adopt Isla. And during this adoption ceremony, one of the traditions is to give each other gifts. And at first, the camp didn't think that Isla would have any gifts because they kind of knew her background a little bit. They knew that she was raised by the clan. They didn't know about Dirk, but they did know about the clan. So they assumed that anything she had would be like really primitive and wouldn't be worth having. But in actuality, her stuff is really cool. Like she had like a lot of baskets and like leather and beads and all this like other still cool stuff and like medicines and stuff, because she'd been crafting things for 3 years all by herself in the cab, in her cave in the valley. So she had a bunch of shit. She came over, and the descriptions of the gifts are really cool, and the whole adoption ceremony is really well done. At the end of this adoption ceremony, actually, Mahmoud, the shaman, kind of encourages Isla to join him in a ceremony, which includes hallucinogenic drugs. And pretty much they have a bad trip. Um, yeah, Isla almost dies. She's brought back. Um, but yeah, it's really intense. Um, yeah, that's kind of like the first part of the thing. She's adopted. That's the pros. That's the pros of it. That's what I like about that section. The cons. Fucking John Alar. fucking Jonlar still has a bunch of shame over, the clan and Isla's past. And he's like really, really scared that, she's gonna tell him about their kid and that they'll be ostracized and judged and whatnot. And he just can't deal with that shit. So he's really, really scared of, whenever she speaks. Whenever she speaks, he's always just like looking. And when she finally does tell the camp about her past, he's just like kind of surprised and humbled that they actually do accept her. Well, I mean, there's one guy that doesn't, but he's kind of overruled. But yeah, John Alar is kind of surprised that this camp like didn't react the same way he did. So it's just like really gross the way he's like really toxic with his jealousy. Like the second Rennick comes on the scene, he's just like touching Isla and just like wanting to beat Rennick up, like really insecure and all this shit. And it's just, I get he's like 18, 19 at this point. I mean, he's young, but it's just, I don't like it. It's gross. I don't like it. He's kind of really abusive toward Isla, like giving her silent treatment and like being passive aggressive and just like gaslighting her, and she's just like really confused about what's going on. Naturally so, because she was raised by Neanderthals and she's just now getting to like human like culture. I mean, and John Allard knows this, so he should be giving her some fucking slack. But he's so fucking insecure and like worried that he's gonna lose her, and that also that people are gonna find out about her, and that like he'll lose them. It's all messed up. It's all really toxic. The whole love triangle is coming up. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't need to be there. The fetishization of the Rennick from Isla's point of view is pretty evident too. I mean, yeah, there might just be a natural attraction, but the way that Gene describes it, it's just really, there's a lot of fetishization of a non-white man, and it's kind of uncomfortable looking back to it because honestly, this is the one and only non-white character in the whole series, and the way it's treated is just like literally like the only reason why women want to hang out with Rennick is like to see if the colors match like all the way, and it's just gross. It's just gross and racist, and I'm not canceling the Mammoth Hunters for this. I'm just pointing it out, and it's that's a con. It's a con from me. Let's move on to the winter. I didn't really like the winter section. It was just like just kind of stuck in here, and John Alar's like really John Alar's being John Alar. The one pro, well, the two pros, it does a really good job of how people could like spend 3-4 months stuck together in a very close confined area, trying to survive in the winter, and how you cope with that, and like relationships and like privacy and lack of privacy and all that stuff. That's very cool. That's very detailed. That's very much pro for me. My favorite part is that Isla gets a wolf. Yeah, there's a puppy. Yeah, she finds a puppy. Well, she tracks down a puppy. She tracks down mom, and then she tracks down the puppy, and she gets it and comes in, and this wolf pup is named Wolf, and he will be a part of the story and part of the series from here on out, which I am happy about. Cons about the winters. John Alar, my god, he's jealous, overdramatic, and violent. I mean, my God, this man, he makes big things out of little things. He's always like he shuts himself down, shuts himself off, and he doesn't communicate with Isla at all. And then oh my God, then he kind of rapes Isla. Like he forces himself upon Isla, and like in the middle of it, you can hear, like, see in Isla's point of view. Oh, she's kind of wanting this. She doesn't know why Janalar is like being like so aggressive and like doing this, but she's like, all right, well, at least I'm getting it. And Janalar, but in Janalar's head, he is taking it. He is like he is taking it without consent. In Janalar's mind, that's what he's doing. And afterwards, it's just like he just like just want they just don't talk about it. They just don't fucking talk about it, and it's just bizarre. It's bizarre, the mental gymnastics between the two of them and why they can't just fucking talk. It's just wild. I mean, John Aller literally knows about Isla and about her past and about why she is the way she is and how she reacts to other people when they, ask for sex. And he's just like, all that's like gone. And it's, and he's still ashamed of her past. And it's just wild. It's just fucking wild. And Jean explains that the rest of the camp sees what's going on and can see that it could be very simply talked over, but they don't talk about it directly because apparently in their culture it's like rude to do this, so that they just wait for somebody to actually ask them instead of butting in, and neither of them ask for advice, so they just let it go on. It's just fucking annoying. I swear to God, it really is. But then we go to the summer camp. We go to the summer camp in the Mammoth Hunt, which are good. These are good times. So at this point, Rennick and Isla are engaged because John Aller has been a fucking asshole. Broke her consent, stopped talking to her, moved to a different hearth, was giving her silent treatment, and Rennick was being a nice guy, being a very cool guy, and actually genuinely caring about Isla and listening to her and having deep conversations with her, and there was a really good solid relationship. I mean, Isla was still wanting John Alar, but she kind of cared about Rennick, so they got engaged, and they were going to get married at the summer camp meeting. So that's where we are. And Joner's being a fucking sad ass and just slopping along because he had promised to go to the Mammoth Hunt. And, he was like, alright, I'll stick around for the Mammoth Hunt. So he's just sticking around. It's a very cool change in pace from everything. It's nice to get out of the fucking lodge and get into different scenery. That's very cool. Reddick's story kind of develops further on here because once they get to the camp, you can tell that everybody looks at him like less than human and like an animal, and they make fun of him and they withdraw from him and make fun of the rest of the camp for having him with them and all this shit. And it's very sad. It's very sad how that comes off, but it's very developed too. You can definitely feel what's going on. It also showcases different musical instruments, and I'll display some pictures of some and mammoth instruments and whatnot, and has a really good description of that, and musical instruments, and there's a little jam session that's very cool. the mammoth hunt's really cool. There's a description of like mammoths and like how you would produce this hunt, and it's exciting. That's nice. John Alert kinda gets his head out of his ass after talking to Mammut, because Mammut's like, if you don't give somebody a choice, they don't really have a choice. And John Alert just like never gave Isla a chance. Like he never like gave her a choice to not be with Rennick because he left. And John Alert was like, oh shit, you know what, you're right. But then at that point, I was so pissed off that she just didn't want to talk to him anymore, and she was just kind of like done. She was being a little petty, which is allowed. My God, he's been petty the whole fucking winter, right? It's allowed for fucking Isla to be goddamn fucking little petty. Sorry, I get a little worked up there. I apologize. Sorry. It's definitely not monetized. Yeah, he gets his head out of his ass a little bit. That's good. The cons, man. After the mammoth hunt, John Allard, like Rennick and Isla are about to get married, and John Allard decides to leave in the middle of the night so that he doesn't have to watch her get married. And I was shocked. She's like, "Where'd John Allard go?" It's like, I thought he was gonna be here for the wedding. And like, so he's like, why would you think that? He still loves you. It's gonna be hurtful. And she's like, well, why didn't she say anything? Blah 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 blah. And they're like, well, you didn't give him a chance. You didn't give him a chance. Like, gave her this big guilt trip for fucking like being a little petty. And she's 17. She's 17 right now. She's not even a fucking adult. So I don't know why they give her a fucking guilt trip. I don't like it. Man, so in the Valley Horses, Isla raised this lion. And raised it from a cub, and this is the lion that attacked John Alar and that Isla saved John Alar from. Well, this lion shows up again. Like, follows her trail, her scent trail, all the way from the lion camp, all the way to the summer camp, and shows up, and she ends up like saving this other girl that kind of looks like her, and ends up like riding the lion off into the distance for a little bit, and like the whole camp is just like, oh my God, the whole summer camp, it's like, oh my God, this woman just rode a lion. And man, it's a little bit corny. I'm sorry. I mean, the baby part was cool. I mean, cute, very cute, but the whole he followed her and then like she rode him, and it's just too much. It's just too much. I mean, I get that this is a work of fiction. I mean, it's not supposed to be realistic. That was corny. It took me out. It takes me out. Oh my God, this is where the repetition starts too. So the rest of the series, the rest of the 3 books that are coming up, every time they meet another group, every time they meet like another group of people, they repeat all of the accomplishments, all of the history, all of like the backstory, and it's like over and over and over, where you just like hear it. And it starts in this book. It does. It starts on when they leave the lion camp to go to the summer camp. That's when it starts, and that's a big con for me. So after Isla's guilt tripped and runs after John Alar, they make boring love, and then they decide to go off on a journey together and go to John Alar's homeland, Zeladani, to the Zelandani, which is like the John Alar's home people, and that's the end of the book. Yeah, it's a pretty good book. I like the book. I don't like the love story. The love scenes are always greasy. There's too much. There's too much. There's too much manhood. There's too much. Uh, it's just too much. I'm tired. I'm tired of those boring things. It's just the repetition. It's the same kind of scenario every time Auel makes love with another person. It's kind of the same. Like, really kind of the same. And that's a lot for me. I skip those parts. But yeah. Other than the love triangle and the boring sex, it's a good book. I like it. It's there's excitement, there's adventure, there's heartache, there's love, there's spirituality, there's trips. It's good. There's mammoths, there's hunts. So I greatly recommend that you do read it. I enjoy it. I still hate read it sometime, even for John L.R. But yeah, thank you for listening. If you have any comments, I would love to hear what you thought of the Mammoth Hunters and what you thought of this review. Tell me if you thought I missed something. Like, subscribe, share. Thank you for your existence.